my God, guys. Oh my God. I just finished watching WWE Bad Blood, and both Jimmy Uso, who had been rumored for a while to make his return after being taken out by the Bloodline the night after WrestleMania when Solo X, kicked him out in when after Roman lost the title and Solo kicked him out of the Bloodline, and that was the night where Tama Tonka made his debut in the WWE, and now The Rock, who we haven't seen since the night of WrestleMania on Raw, because when Solo took Jimmy out, that was on SmackDown. The Rock, we haven't seen since the night of WrestleMania on Raw, makes his triumphant return at the end of the show. Oh my God. Two returns, both family members, one night. And it's crazy. I'd seen that there was some things out there saying that The Rock will come back, but there's a bunch of rumors that can come out, and I just like to see if it's actually going to take place. There was a heavy chance that The Rock would come tonight, and there was a heavy chance that Jimmy would make his return. And you knew something big was going to happen because the fact that this match main evented and CM Punk and Drew McIntyre didn't, which was a really good match, by the way, excellent way to start off the show. Just the story behind that whole match between CM Punk and Drew McIntyre was just incredible. The way that they, built the whole match, the way they ended the match, um, with the bracelets that Drew had inside the bag, poured it all on Punk, tried to hit the Claymore, fell into the steel steps. The CM Punk wraps the chain around his leg, hits Drew McIntyre with a GTS for the win, and it just really stellar match between these guys. Excellent way to end their feud. But the fact that that didn't main event and that opened the show and this main event, you knew something big had to happen because there was all this talk about what was going to main event the show, and I thought maybe perhaps we could either see a Kevin Owens heel turn, maybe a Randy Orton turn with him, or if that didn't happen, somebody was going to return, and that's exactly what happened here because the match wasn't anything too special for the most of it. It was pretty much your standard tag team match for a good portion of it. But the last 10 minutes or so is when it really picked up. Like when the moments when Cody and Jacob got at it, when was trying to take out Jacob and when he put Jacob through the announce table the same way how Jacob Fatu put him through the announce table at SummerSlam. Even when Jacob tried to attack Cody, he missed and landed through the barricade. At that point, that's when the match really picked up. And you even had the spot where Solo and Jacob hit the double super kick on Roman, and then they both hit their moonsaults on him. Well, Jacob hit a moonsault, and then Solo went for the splash, and Roman kicked out. That was a pretty you know high spot as well. Um, so at that point, when that happened, when Cody took out Jacob, when it came down to Roman and Solo, you know, that's when the crowd started chanting, "This was awesome." But a lot of it, was pretty much for the first half of it. Cody was uh, in the match for a good while, and then he tagged in Roman. Roman was in the match for a good. Actually, Roman was in the match for a good while. He tagged in Cody. Cody was in the match, taking a lot of punishment. Then he tagged in Roman, and of course, when Roman got in the second time, him and Jacob, him and Solo got at it. He got a couple of moves on Jacob. I really would like to see those two guys go down against each other in a singles match more than I would with Solo and Roman. To be completely honest, I think because at one point the crowd was chanting "You can't wrestle the Solo," which I thought was kind of harsh, but it just kind of shows how they feel about Solo. I don't think he's a bad wrestler. I just think I do think Jacob just has the more intensity with the bloodline as opposed to Solo, who's declaring himself as the tribal chief. But man, I mean this was insane. I'm glad that they didn't have too many shenanigans take place. A lot of these bloodline matches, there's a bunch of shenanigans, but this one they kept it simple. When it looked like Roman was about to hit the spear on Solo, he got distracted because Tama Tonga and Tama Loa. They got involved, of course. Just when it looked like Solo was gonna take out Roman, all of a sudden a guy standing in a hoodie, which ironically is the same type of hoodie he wore when he turned on Jey Uso at SummerSlam last year. The guy was standing around for a hoodie. I don't know why I thought it was someone else other than Jimmy. I'm like, this is clearly Jimmy Uso. And then, they're trying to figure out who's this guy standing with a hoodie. He comes and he takes out, both Tama Tonga and Tama Loa, and the crowd explodes because, you haven't seen Jimmy since, SmackDown the night of WrestleMania when he was exiled out of, the bloodline. Um, you know, when Solo said losing, has consequences, and he looked at Jimmy, hugged him, and said he loved him, and that's when Tom Matonga took him out, and then he hit him with the spike. And Paul Heyman at the time didn't know what to do. He was just, appalled by everything that was going on. He didn't know what to expect. But man, the crowd went wild. Roman, uh, at that point when Jimmy came out and super kicked both Tama Tonga and Tama Loa, it gave Roman a chance to hit the spear on Solo. Mind you, Cody, was already out the picture at this point because he took Jacob Fatu out through the table. So he was already out the picture because even when he hit the crossroads on Jacob Fatu, it wasn't enough to get him out. So, he was out the picture at this point. Um, and all of a sudden, you know, he notices that Jimmy came to help him. They hug it out, they embrace. The crowd goes wild because of, all the history with them. Uh, and then that's when it looked like perhaps Roman's going to shake Cody's hand, but he doesn't. He walks out the ring, nods at Cody. They look like they're about to leave, him and Jimmy. Then, the bloodline comes back, Solo, Jacob, Fatu, all four of them beat down Cody. Jimmy's telling him, you said you gave him your word, you know, you have his back. And he's like, I'm with you. And then they both run back in to help Cody. And just as they help Cody, bam, here goes another return. Someone who calls himself the final boss, someone who potentially has been pulling the strings behind this new version of the Bloodline since the start, The Rock. And what's crazy about this, is that the last time we've seen The Rock was the night after WrestleMania, but at WrestleMania, him and Roman were teaming together at night one, and they won, against Cody and Seth Rollins at the time. And then night two, he tries to help Roman, but it's not enough for Roman to retain the title. So, man, what's gonna happen here? Because now he's teaming up with the same person who The Rock has an issue with, who he said that our story is just beginning. And The Rock just comes out, his music hits, he looks at them, he counts his hands, and then he leaves. So this is going to go down. I am so curious how this is going to play out. I think most of us really expect the fact that, since the beginning, that The Rock has been the one pulling the strings with this new version of Bloodline, and that it's not actually Solo who's the tribal chief, but instead it's The Rock, who's been the one that's mainly been behind this the whole time. How, it's going to be very interesting to see how this plays out. If it turns out The Rock is in fact the one who was the mastermind behind all of this. When you think about how everything broke down, especially on SmackDown a few nights later, and then just everything that's happened. Um, I'm very invested in this, very, intrigued to see how this storyline plays out. And they did a really good job. They did a really good job putting it together. Man, and I'm very, are we going to see something Crown Jewel? Are we going to see something Survivor Series? Rumor has it that, well, apparently it seems the plan is to have the bloodline, the OG bloodline versus the new bloodline, at Survivor Series. So how does The Rock fit into all of this? There's so many unanswered questions. Is Jey Uso ever gonna, get back in the mix? At this point, Jey Uso don't really have a reason to, because he's the IC champion right now. He's doing his thing on Raw. He don't really have a reason to come back and get involved in this at this point. But you just never know, and it's very interesting to see exactly how this is going to play out going into Survivor Series, going into Crown Jewel. The rumor, well, the plan right now appears to be The Rock going against Cody next year at WrestleMania. But if that is in fact what's going to happen, you just start to wonder, how do you build towards that right now? Um, Especially when The Rock literally said on Raw after WrestleMania that our story has just begun. So there's so many unanswered questions. They showed Jacob and the rest of the bloodline. They looked pretty confused. So they showed Solo. They were just kind of looking a little bit confused. But is that really the case, or is this just really, a swerve, and they just know about what's going on altogether? So I'm really invested to see how this plays out. Like I said, the show overall, I thought it was good. Um, I don't think it was like top tier. I wouldn't say it was like one of the best. Especially since it's the first time since 2004 that they've done Bad Blood. It's been 20 years now, which is crazy. I wouldn't say like this was like an all-time classic or anything, but I will say that from the opener, that match was a great way to start the show. I thought that match was good. I thought the Nia Jackson Bailey match was all right. I didn't think it was great, but I do think they did what they could do. Unfortunately, there were kind of several botches, in the match that kind of kept it from being what it could have been on Nia's part. But so that match was all right. I mean, mostly after the Hell in a Cell match, the crowd, they were into it, but they were mainly chanting, for Tiffany to come out. When she did come out, that's really when the match started to pick up. So if anything, Tiffany getting involved actually brought the match some steam at the end. But Nia, I will give her credit though. I mean, she messed up some of their moves. Like, she was trying to counter a powerbomb to her Hurricane Rana, but she was trying to do some new stuff. It's just, you know, if you can't really execute it that well, then just don't just don't try to go for it. Because even when Bailey tried to hit the suicide dive on her, it was like it didn't fully catch Bailey, so Bailey hit it, but Bailey landed more on the floor as opposed to actually hitting Nia with full contact. And when she tried to go for the sunset flip, Nia ended up falling on top of Bailey, and it kind of like hit her leg or her knee. So it was kind of some rough spots to look at in the match. But I thought they did what they could do. Like I said, Tiffany was the one that really, when she got involved, that's really when the bright spots happened. But yeah, I'll say that as far as that match is concerned. But I would, as far as like, you know, as far as because she tried to counter the powerbomb to her grounder. But as far as like the opener, like I said, excellent match between Drew McIntyre and CM Punk. I mean, these guys have been feuding, like Michael Cole alluded to, for 10 months. And I like how now it actually shows you, the scale of, everybody who is initially the referees. They announced all the referees by name, which, is something that they've only been doing in the Triple H era because, beforehand they had stopped doing that for a while. And then the fact they just show the statistics of the people that feuding together, like what their win-loss record is. And it was just interesting because for CM Punk, it said he was 2-2 at Hell in a Cell. And I was trying to think on who did he... I know he lost to the Undertaker in 2009. I was trying to think of who else he lost to because I know he beat Ryback, and that was referenced to in 2012 with the help of the crooked ref Brad Maddox. When he was WWE champion at the time. And, so it was just interesting. And then the fact they said with Drew, he's never won a Hell in a Cell, which he hasn't because he lost to Randy Orton in 2020, which is when he lost the WWE championship the first time. and then he lost to Bobby Lashley when Bobby Lashley was the champ the very next year. So now he continues his losing streak in Hell in a Cell. So a lot of just historic references that I really like that was brought to the show. Even in the Damian Priest and Finn Balor match, they referenced to the fact that they first fought each other in NXT In Your House 2020, which I do vaguely remember that match. I just couldn't remember who won the match, but I believe Finn Balor did win the match, just like he beat him for the United States title 2 years ago. So that was referenced to as well during that match. And that match was really good, even with the involvement of the even when with the involvement of Judgment Day, it still didn't take too much away from the match. And Finn Balor, Damon Priest got a nice big win on Finn Balor. I mean, these guys really brought it hard against each other in that match as well. But I didn't think anything was like earnestly bad or anything. The announcements Triple H made as far as like champion versus champion matches, and the winner actually winning like a like this title at Crown Jewel. Neither of the titles will be on the line, but they're gonna win like this gold championship that looked really nice. At Crown Jewel. I thought that was interesting. So that's what we're gonna be getting at Crown Jewel. Very interesting though, because how do you book Cody versus Gunther at Crown Jewel? That's just going to be a very interesting match to book. And then you're going to do Liv Morgan and Nia Jackson. Liv Morgan retain. Oh yeah, so we actually had 3 returns. We had Raquel Rodriguez who returned, and you had Jimmy Uso return, and The Rock returned. Raquel didn't really get a reaction, which was kind of crazy. She didn't get really much of a reaction coming out there helping Liv Morgan. The match was good. I feel like just her getting involved, and I don't know if there was some mishap, if she's supposed to get involved with a ref being out or something to help, Liv retain. But the fact that he called the DQ and then she pulled Liv on Rhea, and it really was pointless of her even doing that because the ref had already called the match out. I just thought that was a little bit of a lame finish, but Rhea hitting Dominic like a pinata, and then the fact that she really could have pinned Liv when she hit her with the riptide outside of the ring. She could have threw in there and pinned her, but wasted so much time on Dominic when Dominic fell out of the shark cage or the cage. But it was very entertaining. I just thought the ending kind of really messed it up from as good as it was going. But man, yeah, just really good way to end the show though. A lot of stuff, to say with the blowout, but I did want to briefly touch on the rest of the show. Like I said, I don't think I missed anything. All the announcement Triple H made was really big for Crown Jewel. Like I said, the Damian Priest and Finn Balor match was pretty good. The Liv Morgan and Rhea Ripley match was good. I just thought the ending really sucked. It really kept it from, being better than what it could have been. So that's the only thing I can say about that. But yeah, man. I mean, the Punk match though, you saw him bust out the Anaconda Vice on Drew. Drew actually hit 2 Claymores on Punk, and for like the first 10 to 15 minutes, nobody went for a cover. So I was like, is this like a different stipulation match? But then, I seen what they were doing. We're trying to just take each other out, exhort so much punishment. And you got to give Punk credit, man. I mean, this is the 3rd match he's had, and he hasn't got hurt. Even though he hasn't been wrestling on Raw, as consistent as Drew has. Just the fact that, this is the 3rd match he's had, and it turned out the way it did, it's just really good. In my opinion, it's one of the feuds of the year. This whole feud between him and Drew, just how long it's been going and everything. But both guys, hit their finishes in the early stage of the match and both kicked out. They were both busted open, but CM Punk was busted open first. A lot of equipment used in the match between the the chairs, the tables, which at one point Drew put Punk through, and that looked really crazy. Put him through the table. So there's a lot of crazy spots in the match, but overall though, I just thought it was a really excellent way to end their feud. And we'll just kind of see where Punk goes from here. He did kind of tease he was going to go after Gunther, but, you know, with Seth Rollins preoccupied with Brox and Reed right now, you think at some point they're going to go back to him and Seth Rollins. So just very interesting with that. But yeah, the Bloodline, man, really big way to end off the show, man. I got to say. Um, and we just got to see where it goes. There's so many unanswered questions. But yeah, I give a thumbs up for the show as a whole. And thank goodness, because there was a reference in commentary where Michael Cole bringing up the fact that Triple H and Shawn Michaels had the longest reigning Hell in a Cell match in 2004. Like 47 minutes or something. I'm glad it didn't go that long, because if it went that long or longer, I really think the crowd would have been burnt out for the rest of the night. It's a good thing. Like, the match was long, but I think it was as long as it needed to be. I don't think it dragged for so long to the point where the crowd was just dead for the rest of the show. Because even when they got to the next, 3 matches, they were still pretty hot. Like when they did the match with Rhea and Liv, they were hot for that. They were hot for the Damien Priest and Finn Balor match. So it's not to say they were dead for the rest of the show. That was one thing I was a little bit concerned about. But thankfully that wasn't the case. But yeah, that's pretty much it, guys. The Bloodline is back in full circle, and it should be very interesting to see how things play out. Sign over, Red Flex, like, subscribe, tell you guys know.